the Johnson family values. This is the Johnson family values.
Hi guys, and welcome back to our channel. So today's video is a piggyback from our very first video when we shared with you guys our infertility, our miscarriage, and our rainbow baby story. So I received a lot of inboxes of people telling me their stories and how that video encouraged them, but I also had inboxes of individuals, women, who have told me that, their doctors have told them that they could not get pregnant because they were overweight. So I just wanted to share with you guys my experience, the pros and the cons of being pregnant as a plus size woman, and pretty much what to do if you are pregnant as a plus size woman. So stay tuned and continue to watch. So although I am a plus size woman, I do want to share with you guys that although it is possible to get pregnant plus size, it's not recommended, and that's only based off of my experience. I thank God for her, but at the same time, I wish that I was a little smaller and more prepared with my weight when I got pregnant with her. But like I said, it's very possible, but it is not recommended to get pregnant as an overly plus size woman. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I'm not condoning it and I'm not shaming it, but at the same time, it's just not recommended based off of my experience. So the first thing I want to talk about is the pros and the cons. For me, in my experience, there were more cons than pros, but I do want to go over the pros and the cons of being a plus size woman and being pregnant. So the first con for me being plus size and pregnant was not looking pregnant. In some cases, it really depended on what I had on and the day. Sometimes I looked round in the front, and sometimes I looked more wide. It really depended on what I had on that made me look more round or versus looking wide. So that was a con for me. In certain situations, I did not look pregnant. So the second con for me was my doctor's visits. The assumption of, because you're overweight, you're going to have high blood pressure, you're going to have gestational diabetes. And what I didn't like about that is, although I am a big girl, I did not have high blood pressure and I did not have gestational diabetes at all. There was one doctor's visit where the doctor's nurse did my blood pressure, and she used a cuff for an average size woman. As a plus size girl, I do have larger arms, and my arms do require having a larger cuff to get my blood pressure and to get the correct number. And when she used the wrong cuff on me, it made my blood pressure seem like it was higher than it was, and it really was not that number. So she comes out of the room, she goes and tells the doctor what my blood pressure was. The doctor looks at my chart and she says, well, her weight does play a factor in the fact that she could have high blood pressure. And I'm like, she was wrong. That number is wrong. Like, I'm not stressing. I'm making sure that I'm taking care of myself, and it just is what it is. I know that my blood pressure is not high. Mind you, I had just gotten a stress test done, and my blood pressure was normal. So the doctor comes in and she tells me that she's going to do the visit, but after the visit is over, she wants me to sit on my right side, I believe, and she wants me to breathe, calm down, relax, and just kind of to clear my mind. So she comes back 7 minutes after that, and she comes back with a larger cuff for my arm. And when she did that, we got the correct blood pressure number. So I just knew that every time I go in there, I had to remind them to use a larger cuff from my arm. So that was one con that I did not like, the assumption of constantly having high blood pressure and the fact that I was going to have gestational diabetes. I did not like that. So another con for me is not so much just a con, but it was a pro as well. I did not like having to go to the doctor's all the time. Now, in my situation, being that I had a miscarriage and the chemical pregnancy and all of that, I hope I'm using the right term. Um, Going 3 days a week was really, really tough. And being considered a high risk pregnancy was really tough for me. But I was able to hear her heartbeat 3 days a week. So it wasn't so much just a con, it was a pro as well, being that I was able to hear her. But the con of it was just having to go all the time, just all the time. It was just too much going on. So I was grateful that I got to hear her 3 days a week to make sure she was good. Because it put me at ease and it put me, in a calming space. But it was just driving to the doctors all the time. 3 days a week was a lot on me. So that was a pro and a con put together. Another con was going for non-stress test for her to make sure that she was as active as she should have been, making sure that her heart rate is going down, coming up and going down on its own without any help or anything like that. The con for that situation was pretty much them not being able to find her. It took a very long time for them to find her. So, and that's the result of being overweight. It was hard for them to find her. So when they wouldn't find her for 10 minutes, it's like my heart is pounding. I'm like, oh my God, is she okay? So, the non-stress test was good once we found her heartbeat, but when we couldn't find her, it was very stressful. So being overweight and pregnant and trying to find her heartbeat with the monitors and keeping it on the monitor was really tough, being plus size. So another con for me was assuming that I needed to have another C-section. Although I did have another C-section, it was really only because she was breech. She was head up, foot down, butt down. And I did want to have a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth, after C-section. And my one doctor was okay with it, and the other doctor in the practice wasn't. And being that she wasn't, they all came to the agreement that I really should not do it because it is a really high risk way of having a baby after a C-section and being plus size. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that I couldn't even attempt, but that was a con for me. I didn't like the assumption that you're going to have a C-section regardless because of your weight. Being plus size and pregnant and having a C-section, the recovery is extremely tough. The recovery with her was hard. First getting out of the bed right after having a C-section was easier for me this time around than it was with my son. But when I got home and throughout the 5 days I was in the hospital, it was really tough. I had to be injected with blood thinners to make sure that I didn't get blood clots. They assumed that I wasn't going to be active by getting up and constantly walking around, letting my blood flow and things like that. They assume because I'm a big girl and big girls don't work out, right? So the recovery was really, really tough for me. And on top of that, I breastfed for 3 months. So it was really, really tough because my uterus is contracting on top of the pain from the C-section. I did not want to take too much of the painkillers because I didn't want to get addicted to them. I'm just being 100% honest with you guys. So the recovery was really, really tough, having a C-section this time around. Another con for me was the assumption that because I'm a big girl, that I don't work out. Now, I'm a big girl who likes to walk, who likes to run, and who loves the elliptical machine. I love cardio, and I'll lift weights as well. But, I was limited to what I could lift, and I didn't lift weights at all. I did do a lot of cardio when I was pregnant with Mariah, but the assumption of saying, oh, she's a big girl, so she's not going to do too much working out, that kind of steered me, it really made me feel like they thought I was going to be lazy. And I wasn't. I mean, there were times where I was more asleep than anything, but I wasn't a lazy plus size pregnant woman. I worked out. I walked. Justin took me walking all the time. I ran. I didn't run, but I did do a lot of speed walking and the elliptical machines. So the assumption of, oh, she's a big girl, she's not going to be active, that bothered me. So my last con would be being limited to the amount of weight that you can gain while plus size and pregnant. I was told that I can only gain 15 to 20 pounds. And with her, I gained 22 pounds. With my son, I was 150 pounds and I gained 105. And back then, they didn't care. It was like they did not care. But being that I am a plus size girl, they told me if I cannot gain any more than 15 to 22 pounds with this pregnancy. So, like I said, I gained 22 pounds with her, and it was really difficult because I'm already a plus size girl, and the cravings were crazy. But I had to make sure that I maintained them, that I managed them, so that I did not gain more than those 20 pounds. I mean, I gained two more than supposed to, but they were okay with that. Um, but like I said, when I was pregnant with my son, I gained 105 pounds with him. So they didn't really say much about it, but to slow down. They just told me to slow down. So I was kind of like, this time around, they're like, listen, you cannot gain too much more. You have a limit between 15 and 20 pounds. Don't gain any more than that. So being limited to that is kind of like, it's hard because you have to really manage what you were eating. Mind you, I did eat what I wanted sometimes, but I still ate a little more on the healthier side, being that I wanted to make sure she was getting the right nutrients for her as well. As far as the pros go, like I said, there were not many. Um, this pregnancy was really tough on me as a plus size girl. It was very difficult. The experience was difficult, but I can say that a pro for me was that I did not experience what the doctor said I was going to experience. I didn't have high blood pressure. I didn't have gestational diabetes. I did not get a preeclampsia. But that was the pro for me. The pro was that I ended this pregnancy very healthy. Um, I'm just grateful that I was able to be healthy throughout the entire pregnancy. Now, being plus size and doing self care is very important. It's important no matter what size you are, but when you are plus size, you have to do a little more than the average um, size woman has to do when she's pregnant. Um, your hygiene has to be a little different. Your the way you take care of yourself. So the first thing I did was manage my eating. I watched what went into my mouth. I made sure that I wasn't eating anything too high in sodium, too high in sugar. Don't get me wrong. I ate what I wanted because as a pregnant woman, you do have a lot of cravings that sometimes are uncontrollable, but you have to learn to manage them because if you don't, that is a situation that you don't want to handle. That's something that you don't want to go through. Um, Being plus size, like I said, you are more at risk of getting gestational diabetes and getting preeclampsia and high blood pressure and all of that when you are bigger. Average women get it as well, but you're more at risk of having it when you are a plus size woman. So managing what you put in your mouth and what you eat is number one. Number one, you have to make sure you're eating properly, not just for you, but for the baby as well. Another thing was my hygiene. I am a shower freak. I take about 2 showers a day. Especially when I was pregnant, I took 2 showers a day because I felt like I felt better after taking a shower. I felt better after cleaning myself and making sure that I was smelling good and everything like that. I had to make sure that I felt clean to feel better about myself. So your hygiene is one thing. Using shea butter for your belly. Even though I already had stretch marks from my son, it just helped with the itch from your belly stretching a little more and things like that. I used Vagisil for my private areas, and I used body washes that were high in moisture as well for my body, especially for my breast area where they were getting larger. They didn't need to get any larger, but they were getting larger. And another thing that I did was remain active. I have a desk job. And I'm also a makeup artist, but I was sat down from doing that because they didn't want me on my feet too long. I did do some gigs here and there, but I was really sat down from doing it because it's a very stressful job. On top of all of that, I have a desk job, so I'm not very active at work. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm constantly on the phone. I'm dealing with paperwork and things like that. So I had to get up every maybe hour for 10 minutes and walk around. When I got home, my husband made sure he made me walk around the neighborhood ever so often. We would go to the gym. So just remaining active is something that is very important during your pregnancy. Another thing is rest. I did not rest as much as I should have, being that I have an 11-year-old son who is involved in everything. He's involved in music. He's involved in sports. I had to take him to practices and rehearsals and things like that. So it was tough getting the rest that I needed, but when I did, it felt good. So I do recommend making sure that you make time for yourself and get some rest. So the last thing that I did while pregnant this go around was set aside some meditation, prayer time so that I can clear my mind. I did go through a period of depression while I was pregnant. I allowed myself to think too much, and I let things go through my head, and I let it defeat me for a minute. I was like, you're getting ready to go on maternity leave. This was so unexpected. How are you guys going to take care of this? So I had to literally set aside some time to relax, to chill, to clear my mind, and to allow God to work. He didn't give this baby to us and this moment to us to leave us where we are. So if I was going to stress out, I would just kind of set aside some time. I would sit by myself. I would either make the room completely quiet, or I would put on some soft, soothing music, and I would just sit and I would talk to God, and I would meditate. I would clear my mind, and I would allow myself to breathe. It's tough going on maternity leave, but whatever else you guys are possibly thinking of or going through, just sit, relax, chill, give yourself some time to calm down. Don't allow it to stress you out, because it'll stress you and the baby out. So that was one thing that I did, was create a meditation / prayer time to just think for myself. All right, guys. So I hope that this video was enjoyable. I hope that you guys learned a little bit from my experience of being a plus size woman and pregnant. Like I said, it is doable to get pregnant as a plus size woman, and it is doable to maintain a healthy pregnancy while being plus size. You just have to make sure you do self-care, make sure you're eating right, and make sure you're doing the things that you're being told to do by your doctor to maintain a healthy pregnancy. Again, it's not recommended based off of my experience, but I would love to hear your experience if you were a plus size and pregnant woman and you went through and had a wonderful pregnancy. Again, if you have any questions or if you want to see any other videos from us, leave them in the comment box below and I will respond as soon as I can. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in our next video. Bye.